It's showtime. This is Wednesday, 10 a.m. on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. And I have my gardener is outside. He's come early today instead of later. So I have turned down my input volume, and I'm trying to use ambient noise reduction. So maybe you won't hear the it's right outside the window. You can't do anything about this. I live in a place where the grass grows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Not to drive you nuts. So let's get on with it. Today we're working on page 74, and maybe we'll get on 75. This is Blueboy Brown, Adventures of a Family. And let me see, what did I do last night? Oh, last night I got out old. I'm not overly proficient at it, but I'll get there. I usually am able to learn just about any software program. Oh, what is this supposed to be? No, I didn't want that. Let's just get rid of you. I'm usually able to learn pretty much any software program within a short period of time. If I'm a little rusty in something, then I'll catch up with it. Anyways, I was going into After Effects, creating some type of a logo, an opening animation for my Kickstarter campaign. So I'll be working on that for a while. I think I've got to figure it out. It's going to be beautiful. So yesterday we were working on this, and I've got up to the shadows part. I've done these two. I got a few things to do in here. I forgot that he's got blood all over him, so I should do that right now. I do it in the color section, that color section. Bring it all the way up here because blood is doesn't have a whole lot of yellow in it. It's not orangey. So let's just give this. Where am I? Okay, that's working, isn't it? Well, tell me I'm gonna have one of those days where no, it's screen. Oh, it's on screen. Oh, then I shouldn't use that. I should use this one, which is not on screen. Okay. Oh, I don't like that. And splatters here and there. And then deepen it somewhat over here. Really give it a shot there. Yeah. Okay. So Blue has got a right to be a little bit upset. He's 12 years old. He's seen something horrible. So, okay. And in the background, let's go over here to page 73 because I had. No, I didn't. 74. Well, I guess I'll just have to. I'm just going to let it fly on this one. Okay. It's right around there, more like that. Yeah, a little bit of this. And take that out of color too, and just put it in color. So I started last night working on the intro video for my Kickstarter campaign. I know what it's going to be. I know as I was watching it, I was doing some research, watching people who do tutorials on it on YouTube. I love YouTube. It can be a squirrely little program, but by and large, it does a lot of things that you used to have to shell out money to lynda.com to learn or take my course in high school. In fact, shout out to Ruben Puccinelli, who put a comment on my YouTube channel. You used to be my high school art teacher. And yes, I was, Ruben. And you graduated from Ringling School of Art. And I looked at your stuff and you rock, bud. You are really good, man, I tell you. I must have taught you the art elements, principles of design pretty well. I'm happy to see you're doing really well. I hope you get to live a life in which you get up every morning and make art, and the work won't seem too much like work if you're making art. It's just the way it is. When you're making art, you can just be tired as all get out, which is half of my life, and it just doesn't seem like work. I haven't had that much luck in getting that to work out. Teaching high school is not that, but that's okay. I'm glad I taught high school. Why I look at Ruben. Glad I knew Ruben. Know Ruben. There are so many people that I'm happy that I became acquainted with through teaching high school. The finest people you'll ever meet. Some real stinkers. But you know, one wonderful thing about being a high school teacher, you get these stinkers. You say, "Oh, this is the worst kid I ever had in my whole life." About 3 or 4 years after they graduate, they come back and they tell you that they turned out okay because they knew what you thought, and they say thank you for whatever you did for them. And all teachers have experienced this. It's the best part of teaching, is that these kids that you just said, "What's going to happen to that kid?" And they come back and say, "I just got back from Iraq. I'm okay." I've had a lot of them. Quite a few, several of them do that. Says, "I made it. You know, just thought you'd like you to know that I'm all right." And I am glad. I'm glad to know that they're all right. It means a lot to a teacher that their kids work out. Everything's okay, and they don't have to worry about them. Because guess what? Teachers do worry about kids. That's why we do what we do. We don't do this for the money. I looked at the with all of the thumping against the tub that unions have made and contracts and everything. If you take into account inflation, teachers are making the same salaries that they made back in the 60s. And back in the 60s, they were making $6,000 a year. But $6,000 a year back then wasn't horrible. Wasn't horrible. It was a middle class life. It was a probably lower middle class life. But now things are just crazy. With the here we go up to the shadow. With the stimulus payments that are being paid out that everybody seems to be getting, that's gonna it's gonna lead to incredible inflation in the next couple of years. It's not going to be pretty. There's nothing to be done about it. You and I are just bystanders. But when you print money and you don't have anything to back it up, they don't. Here, right here on his nose, I'm adding like a secondary shadow. I'm going to give this guy a little bit of volume to his face. It's just one of laws of economics that you have to have something to back up your money, gold. And if we got a finite amount of gold, you keep on printing money, guess what's going to happen? Inflation. We went off the gold standard for pretty good reason. At a federal note back in the a century ago could be you could show it up at the Federal Reserve, Fort Knox or someplace like that, and exchange it for gold. Well, guess what? People from all over the world were coming and exchanging federal notes for gold. We were running out of gold. So they took us off the gold standard. So I'm playing around a little bit with some, just messing around a little bit so that it looks kind of inky dinky here. So that I like just to play around a little bit with variations. Do. Okay, see, I'm just drawing with this in the color area on that guy's hair. Okay. Should I do the same thing over here? I don't know. Make it look like he's got dirty ears. And right now I'm doing Blue Boy's nose over in the right. You didn't notice. Okay, and then creating a core shadow for this thing that curves around. And do I have anything else up here? Not really. Well, maybe I could do a little bit here. I don't have to have a bigger. Thanks. The only reason I'm here now is because you told me about Ringling. So thank you for that. Haha, huge influence. I'm gonna put that right up there. Click on it. Show. Show. I gotta learn how to do that. Yeah. Ruben Puccinelli. So glad that you did well at Ringling. It's a good school, isn't it? Yeah. So are you there now? Have you graduated? There are so many years that I did. Which year did you graduate, Ruben? What year did you graduate, Ruben? If you're 1008, you should still be here. Good. So who was it? Ralph. A guy named Raphael something or other. Back in the '90s, when we were doing those Holocaust projects with the Holocaust documentation people. He went off to Ringling. What's going on here? Oh, there. And he went straight from Ringling to working on Terminators. See, I was only in the major that graduated with honors. Oh, cool. I graduated in '09, so took the long way around. Graduated Ringling last year. A lot of people take a while to get through school. I took a long time to get through school. I had the turbulence of the '70s and all that other stuff going on, so I know exactly what you talk to. But you're out of there. Hey, you did it. So you graduated in '09, yeah. Well, I'm glad to see you doing okay. So you're the only one who graduated with honors. I dig that. Hopefully, you still remember my Aristotle speech. I gave it yesterday to my college class online, which is a little different than doing it in person. I wonder if I should get rid of some of that noise here. I'll think about that later. So we'll put some now. Let's start working on the shadow in this guy's and use this as a secondary thing. So you have sort of like two zones there. So what year did you? Yeah, and it makes sense. Happiness isn't feeling good. Otherwise, it it can't last. It dissipates. It's everything to do with living your life with meaning and purpose. Oh boy, look what I'm doing to this guy's face. I think I know what I can do to fix that, though. Hope you guys can't hear my gardener. He's really going after my hedges now. I told my wife over and over again, why can't I just do this? Why can't I just do this? She said when Irma came through and I was clearing brush and everything, she thought I was going to have a heart attack. So she won't let me do it. And you can't go against your wife in certain things. Now, right here, I'm going to kind of soften this up because that looks kind of silly. I'm not crazy about how very um, it's a little too dark, but that can be fixed without having to redo it. Huh. Okay, let me see. So what I'm going to do. Huh. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna lighten it just a little bit. Let's see how much I need to lighten it. Just because when you print this or you put it in on the web, it's going to darken a little bit. So I'm going to leave it like that. I don't want it to get too dark. Okay, so and maybe I can do a little bit over here, and we draw in the shadow area a little bit. Okay. So over here on the right panel, Blue Boy's got his back to the. Oh, I gotta deselect that. Blue Boy's got his back to. A little bit there. Okay, and then that, make that real simple. And that, make that real simple. And I probably, because I made it so simple, I need to soften some of the edges that don't look too wacko. Yeah, a little bit like that. Maybe like that. That, and then get rid of that right there. That little edge of the shadow, which is a little. And okay, that's done. And now we go to town on this one. Well, I'm really proud of you, Ruben. Sticking with and I also went and looked at your page. Man, you have really blossomed. That portrait drawing that's over on your ArtStation page. Anybody be proud of that? That looks like it was charcoal or pastel, huh? Really, really subtle, good-looking stuff. So, what's your plans now? This is a lousy time for movie production. Everything's shut down until maybe later this month. They're going to go back into okay. Well, I graduated. I mean, I graduated because I retired. Finally retired. Had a horrific accident. I was laid up invalid for like 2 months in 2015. I came back to the school and it became obvious to me after a while I just couldn't do this anymore. It was like it's just like the last straw. Those 2 months in bed, I just couldn't get my stamina back. I was just not able to handle it. And you got to have an awful lot of stamina to deal with the stress of classroom management, which I was never particularly great at. You might have noticed, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And so, fortunately, I had enough years in so that I could get full retirement and get on Social Security, the whole 9 yards. So I'm okay. And because about August of 2018, I just decided I'm going to go back to comics because that's what I did when I was your age. I was doing comics. I was staying up for 3 days at a time without any sleep doing comics. I I had stamina back then. I could do anything. It ain't that way now. Yeah, I have to be careful. But, you get to be an old man. Everybody thinks the old men say, "Oh, you're an old man. You know what to do." No, this is the first time I've ever been an old man. I've never been an old man. Well, it'll be complete sometime in the fall, though. I'm coming out with a Kickstarter campaign in July that is going to be the first couple, 2, 3 chapters of it. EA Tilburn, EA Sports in Bela on the NBA Live team. Cool. Wow, cool. I like that. I like that. Here, let me put a shout out for you. So you're working on the NBA Live team. I like that. Wow, cool. Yeah, it's all about writing. The main thing is writing. Write, and also write about things you know about. Uh, write about things you know about. Even though I grew up on superhero comics and science fiction, everything, I did research on this thing here I'm doing for 30, 40 years. You For a while you do it, then you kind of put it back. Then I did a novel about it, and I didn't want to publish the novel because it was a first draft. It wasn't. You got to have something outrageous in print to really get noticed. So about 2 years ago, I was flipping through this unfinished novel. I said, why don't I turn this into a graphic novel? Because of what and it really had a lot to do. And I've been trying to get hold of this guy. He doesn't answer. I guess he doesn't remember that he wrote about me. A guy named Dale Luciano wrote about me in Comics Journal back in 1985. Said I was a major talent. But he's looking at my 70s work. So he wrote this in 1985. In 1985, I was doing printmaking and painting and getting ready to go to graduate school. I didn't have much interest in comics because it had been such a lousy experience for me back in the 70s. 70s are a lousy time to be in comics, unless you were doing Marvel at DC, which that was never my. Once I got into underground, I got into underground comics. I was really naive, and I sent off a cover and inside covers to Yellow Dog Comics. I don't know how the heck these things happen. I didn't know that they were like planned for a year in advance or more. I just sent it to them. They said, well, we already have a Trina Robbins cover, but they used the inside front covers that I did. So that got me. That was the first thing I had published in the professional world. And then I did my own comic. And that was a disaster because the economics, it was 73, right at the beginning, recessions and all that stuff. And then there's a lot of things going on in comics that had really nothing to do with me. It had to do with the fact that underground comics were pretty raunchy. And even though mine wasn't, it affected the ability to get published. And I presented my stuff to Rip Off Press, and they were real nice to me. Gilbert Shelton talked to me for an hour or so while he was working on a Furry Freak Brothers comic strip, which was cool because I listened to what he said, and then I was also watching what he was doing. And I showed it to Last Gasp Eco Funnies, and they said, this is crap. They just didn't like it at all. It was like I actually studied that Arrow comics at Ringling. Underground comics were something else entirely. Yeah, underground comics were crazy, crazy. I did not get too heavy into like knowing a bunch of people in underground comics. I have friends who, did get heavy into it, but once you get into that kind of stuff, you don't really want to go into mainstream comics. You want to do what would be more like the just to truly be independent. Now, when indie comics came along in the 80s, I didn't even know about it. I was looking at Rembrandt. I was looking at Picasso. I was looking at, I was doing things that really weren't, Turtle in the Hair. Yeah. Yeah. I remember the Turtle in the Hair. That was a good one. I had a huge collection of underground comics at one time, but I've lost everything in the over the years. And but much of the stuff that was being produced in underground comics was just people being pissed off. The 70s is a good time to be pissed off. People were just really ticked off about everything. Vietnam was going on until 73, and I almost went. Came within a hair's breadth of going to Vietnam. Didn't. And all my friends who went came back harrowing tales. No good time was had by anyone. And then, the commies take over and yeah. Let me see. Let me put that color back there. There was a lot of parodies back then. The wildest one was Dan O'Neill's Air Pirates, which was a complete, it was a parody on all of Walt Disney's characters. But man, Walt Disney came after that guy like they ruined him. They ruined him. Told me, don't ever do that. Don't ever even think about even messing with Walt Disney. So I've never. That's why I only do my own original stuff. I don't do parodies of anybody. I don't do satires of anybody. I don't need that. Of course, what they were doing is what O'Neill was doing. At least it appears to me, is that he was attacking the wholesomeness of Disney as a way of attacking what those values represent, which I don't agree with now. At the time, I thought it was kind of cool, but that's because I was a child. You're a child, you think lots of things that are stupid or really cool. Yeah, Air Pirates with Mickey Mouse. Yeah, it was really a bad decision on his part. He lost his shirt on that. Did not turn out too well for him. Well, this is coming along. Okay. And I think right now, I'm going to kind of say, let me see how this looks. Let me see. Disney has clause in their artist contracts that anything they make, Disney owns. Yeah, it's called art for hire. It's so a lot of the artists would just draw smut. I didn't know that. But it's called work for hire. It's anything you do belongs to the company that hired you to do it, and you don't have any say in it. The early comics, some of the early comics stuff that was done for like Superman and Batman and all that stuff, uh, were for a long time considered works for hire, even though like Siegel and Schuster created this stuff, and uh, and the people at DC just treated them horrible, which they've done that to quite a few times, to especially in the Superman field. They Kurt Swan, they without any preparation, they just said, "Oh, you don't work here. We don't need you anymore." Kurt Swan, the guy who basically was what's going on? Oh, what am I doing here? I must have something going on. He was basically the Superman artist for a good 20, 30 years. And just one day they said, okay, well, you don't work here anymore. We don't need you. Unfortunately, Kurt Swan wasn't very good with money, and so he really struggled. And he was one of my all-time favorites when I was a kid. Man, did I love Kurt Swan. Kurt Swan, George Klein, Stan Kay was also another inker of Kurt Swan's. He's amazing. I'm actually the administrator of a Facebook group about Stan Kay, because he's really good. He was the first really great inker for Kurt Swan. And they treated these guys horrible. That's why Alex Toth left, went to Hollywood, started doing cartoon storyboards for Space Ghost and things like that. And Johnny, who's that John? Forgotten the name of the kid. Johnny, anyway, blonde-haired kid with an Indian sidekick and a little dog with a bullseye over his nose. I think Race Bannon was the CIA agent that was in it and everything like that. Anyway, he started doing storyboards for these people. He said they treated me a whole lot better. They treated me like I was an actual human being. And he went back and he worked for DC at times. Did some, Johnny Quest, right? Thank you. He worked for DC in the 70s. Did some House of Mystery stuff. One House of Mystery stuff that's just one of the great classics of all of these gothic comics. One of the great ones ever. I absolutely love that issue. And so, he Toth, who was about as good as anybody ever did comics, he really didn't get along with these guys very well at all. Let me see what I should do about that right there. This bothers me a great deal. I've got a white layer there. I'm bothered by these lines are just not doing it for me. I think I'm going to get rid of a lot of this and just let the value do it. They're just like scratches and they don't do anything. So I hope you can't hear the air blower this guy is using. He used to come when I had to take my afternoon nap. You can't say anything to him. You got to have a gardener. It's not his fault that I take my nap when he comes. He comes when he's in the neighborhood. These guys work all over the county, and You have to come on this day. I'm over in this part of the city. So, oh well. Okay, I think that really is better. Take that out there too. I think that's better. And I'm going to take some of this out too. That looks kind of squirrely. Okay, sometimes you just, since I do this with just a pencil, a mechanical pencil, sometimes you can just get a little too free with it. Whereas you're working in ink here, you are careful that every dadgum line is means something and works so that you don't screw everything up. Especially if you're an inker and you're inking somebody else's work, you're not gonna just slap it off and see if this works. I'm gonna go in here. Am I doing this again? Oh yeah, I'm using my eraser. I'm brilliant. I really am. I'm just going to accentuate this guy a little bit. Not much, but a little bit of drawing on this probably help a little bit. You can see I've got a bit of a quirky style. I actually don't think I have a style. So getting back to your graphic novel, write about the things you know. Really do heavy research into, let's say you're creating a fantasy world. Try to create a fantasy world that actually corresponds to some of the laws of physics, some things that could be done. That's why so many science fiction writers have not been English majors, but have been like Arthur C. Clarke. I believe his major was engineering. Then he went into, and I don't think Isaac Asimov was an English major or a writing major or anything like that. My father-in-law knew him uh, when he lived in Massachusetts. They both lived in the Cambridge area. Father-in-law was a professor at a local college. And somehow met the guy. So he's real interesting character. Well, just I spent an awful long time. I started back in the 80s. Getting together material, especially understanding everything that was going on during the period that I'm writing about, so I don't say something really that is, people are going to say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. You want to avoid that. That's embarrassing. Since I'm writing about this period right here is 1914, right before World War I. So there's all types of stuff going on that has anything to do with international politics. There's an awful lot of things going on in the lead up to World War I that are hairy. Crazy stuff going on all over the world that you can incorporate in real subtle ways. Blueboy is my grandfather's brother, who was this size and was a lumberjack. That's the only similarity between the two. He wasn't this age at 12. He wasn't this size at 12 years old. But I wanted to span a period of time. I just kind of like the idea that he was just this huge kid, because hey, I knew some kids at 12 years old were like 6'5", 6'6". This is not that unusual. Just huge kids. They go on to become basketball players. This kid didn't become a basketball player, but the whole family actually is based upon my great grandfather's family, who the drawings of Blueboy's father look exactly like my great grandfather. He's an amazing looking man with a big handlebar mustache, which was common back then. And I even named the mother here Catherine, which was my great grandmother's name. I love the name Catherine. It's just a beautiful name. But the idea for calling him Blueboy comes from the Gainsborough painting. I like that, and also when you're sort of a hillbilly, which I'm sort of a hillbilly, you are first introduced to art in the weirdest ways. Since you know, I wasn't pure hillbilly. I was taking the libraries. I had a library card, and I did all types of stuff. But the first time I ever saw Blueboy, that painting really was on the back of a deck of playing cards, bicycle playing cards. Back when I don't know if they still do it, because I don't play cards anymore. But they put full color illustrations, real fancy ones, on the back of playing cards. And that's the first time I saw Gainsborough's Blueboy. And so it stuck in my head. So when I was looking for a name for this guy, I went through several different names. Finally stuck on Blueboy. And my dad used to tell stories about his family. And there are tiny little parts of his stories that he would tell around the kitchen table in here, especially my great-great-grandfather, who was Grandpa Blue Brown. He, like my character, was in the Civil War, and like my character, he deserted because 200,000 men deserted during the Civil War. It wasn't that unusual. But I decided to do that because he was a Mennonite. And I have Mennonites in my family's background. And so Mennonites are pacifists. They will not fight. Mennonites who actually were drafted and went into the war would fire their guns up in the air. And so I had this guy become a deserter. And he went to the Battle of Gettysburg, which is kind of close to what happened to my great-great-grandpa. And my great-great-grandpa, I have a photograph of him. My father knew the guy. And he looked just like he looked just like my character looks. He was the exact spitting image of him. A little guy. He was a really little guy. And here he has all these grandchildren. Big, really big. And here's this guy was like 5'4" or something like that. And something happened. Everybody started getting big. As I just weaved this story around him, based on just this little story I wrote back in the 2000s. Oh, that's not the color I wanted. Back in the 2000s, I wrote this little snippet of a one-page story, and I based everything on that thing when I did the novel. And then the comic book is a complete rewrite of the novel. There's some parts that are left, but I did a lot of restructuring and made the reason why things happen to be completely different. That's what happens when you rewrite. You got to come up with something better. That's really a big deal for me. It's like writing and rewriting. That is the soul of writing, is to rewrite, to make it better, to make it flow better, to make it sound better. I'll do a rewrite before I go to print. I'm on the web now. Let me put my banner up. Well, make sure you get yourself when I'll make announcements here when I do the Kickstarter, and it's going to be a modest. This Kickstarter, first Kickstarter campaign, is going to be modest. I think it's the best way to make sure you have a successful crowdfunding campaign. What am I doing? And so it's gonna be based upon the idea of a limited edition, signed limited edition. Yes, I'm going to sign it, and it's going to be an edition just like if you're doing etchings. And but one of the things I'll be doing between why is this not working? Sometimes that happens. I'll have to between the web version and the print version. In the web version, all my word balloons, the type in the word balloons are, yeah, it's working, are 34 point. And I do that because I noticed that some people create their web comics, and you can't read any of the type in the word balloons. Nothing. You have to explode the uh, the uh, the page, really zoom in to be able to do it. I think that's you don't want that happening. I don't want that happening. I want you to be able to look at it, and I design everything so that the smallest screen you're going to get is on a smartphone. So you want that smartphone to be readable. And so I use 34 point in the text for the word balloons and in the dialogue boxes or the narration boxes. And so you can read it. But in print, I don't think I'm going to have 34 point. In fact, I don't want to have 34 point. I want to have, maybe 24 point. And that means I can put in a lot more text into the narration and the word balloons and stuff like that, and not have it hide the whole page. And so there's going to be a little bit of, I've had to really be very spare in my use of words in the web version, and really just get it down to almost like poetry, where every word has to mean something. It has to say what I want it to say. And so I'm not going to have to do that we're not going to do that in the print version. So there'll be a little more verbiage. It'll be a little more, a lot more text going on to be able to say more. And we give this guy's nose a little. Well, what happened there? Well, that's because I've got something over that. Okay. Yeah, and that there, not there. Probably there. Nope. Nope. Where is it? Color 3? Nope. Where is it? Huh. Oh, well. I better undo that then, because that looks stupid. Fortunately, there's multiple undo. That's one good thing about working in Photoshop. Come on, I'm telling you to undo. How many times did I? Okay, now I'm getting there. I think. Step backward. Okay. Step backward. Step backward. Step backward. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will use just. Oh, I did it. It actually did it. Boy, I tell you. Anyway, we should quiet this down a little bit right here. This little line here is really a little too, yeah. That line's maybe a little too Okay. Well, let's see what it looks like. I'm thinking that this blood on Leroy's face is a little too spotty, and maybe I need. Where did I put the blood on his face? Was it up here? Nope, that's not where I put it. Put it up here in color too. Yep. What I try to do here, which I think you'll probably agree is probably a good strategy, is to keep black out of my color as much as I possibly can because it really dulls down the color. All these are muted chromatic grays, which I don't know if I taught anybody that when I was teaching, but taught him. I think I taught him more in college classes than I taught it in my high school classes because we had such lousy um, art supplies. In high school, you just have lousy art supplies. Nothing you can do about it. Those praying watercolors. When you finally actually have a good set of watercolors, you can't believe what you've been going through all these years. So I think I want to make sure that his injuries are not spotty like some kind of a pattern or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that he really got whacked real good, but I don't want it to. Well, I guess I'm just put that over in color 3. All right, put it over. Oh well. And maybe I could burn a tiny bit of this. Strangely enough, when you burn red, it just becomes a brighter red. The palette that I use for this one is different than the palette I used for the previous chapter. It's something I noticed this when I've been reading Giraud's Lieutenant Blueberries for like 50 years. About 50 years ago, I came upon him when they were publishing it in French. I got it from Europe or someplace, maybe Bud Plant. I don't know who it was. I got it from, and I noticed that he changes the colorist, whoever did color was a real smart cookie, and he changes the color scheme as the scene changes. It's not always the same. So everything's warm in this one, but in the previous one, it was mostly like. Let me scare it up. Let me see. Open up. Let me open it up in preview. It's a little bit easier to do. Let me see. Yeah. Let me see. It was page about 41 or something like that. Okay, page. See if I can find page 41. I may be in luck. Yeah. See if that's it. Show yourself. Oh, here. 40, yeah, that and page 41. Okay. So I'll open those up and I'll show you what I was doing on that page. I kind of go all over the place. This is page 40, and this is page 41. As I get into this is a sharecropper shack with Mrs. Hartman, who's going to be the next Mrs. Grandpa Blueboy Brown, but Grandpa Blue Brown. She's going to be the next Mrs. Brown. She lives in this sharecropper shack, so I make everything kind of very somber colors. Kind of coming up to it is kind of they're happy and everything like that. Then you get into here, it's like all these grays. Now I happen to know a few things about sharecropper shacks because I grew up in this area and I've been around this area, and I lived in Mississippi in the 60s, so I saw shacks like this. I've been all over this area of the country, so that's why I say I'm right about things. When you don't have any paint on your house, and this rains and the rains and rains and rains, it takes every bit of color that was ever in that wood out. It just becomes gray, and it's it's not a good place to live, and it falls apart. And so all this is very gray. It's the only place where I've actually used real black and white, though these grays are greenish grays and bluish grays. And then I use these dark browns and stuff like that, just so that you understand that this woman it's not just saying she's poor, it's showing that where she lives, how did she ever get by? How did this woman ever get by? And that's really the experience of a lot of sharecroppers in the South. How did these people ever get by when the Great Dust Bowl came in the 30s? That's when they moved out to California, became pea pickers, where they just picking green peas and green beans and lettuce and stuff like that, and living in lean-tos. Dorothea Lange's migrant mother comes straight out of that. And I'm trying to get this thing to do what I want it to do. There. So I'm going to say that this page is in the can. I don't think I can make it any better, and I think I could probably make it a lot worse. As I've gotten into this, remember I was out of comics for 40 years. So I had not been coloring comics at all. And I tried different ways of doing it that are common, like flatting and stuff like that. I don't particularly like flatting. Yep, that's exactly what I wanted. This happy optimism, because uh, along the way, um, Grandpa Blue is singing a song. Oh, where have you gone, Billy boy, Billy boy? Oh, where have you gone, darling Billy? I have gone to take a wife. She's the darling of my life. Oh, she's a young girl and cannot leave her mother. And he's just real happy and everything like that. And then it says, so it's one of the parts of the story that I'm most proud of, how he finds this wife, because strangely enough, is how my great great grandpa would do it. He was like a scandal within the family that he would just find just any old woman and marry her because he's a widower. He had a heck of a time finding anybody who would have anything to do with him because he had two infant boys. So it's a real fun story how Grandpa, great grandpa, his romantic life. It's one of the real fun parts of doing this story is using all that stuff that my dad told me about when I was a boy, and it's sort of like paying homage to my dad and my these old guys who looked like my comic. Um, I think that's the best way to write is just find something that you know an awful lot about and write about that. Uh, unless you're, James Michener and you, but James Michener's not never wrote literary fiction. He's writing pot boilers. Um, he's writing things that uh, could not be called real art. I'm trying to do art here. I I'm not interested in just doing things for the heck of it. I just want to, and I've read an awful lot of literary fiction that says, what if comics was like literary fiction? Which probably means I won't be super um, um, popular. That's okay. I don't have to be super popular. That's not, remember, that's not what happiness is about. Okay. So I think I'm going to say that's it. I did this page. Now I'm going to go on to the next one. Save that. And here comes the next page. The 75 is over here. Let's save that thing. So let me look at 73 and 74. Those 73 and 74 are not next to each other in the book. They're not across the gutter. But they still match each other. They don't look like you made this huge jump. So now I got to go over to page 75. And here we have same old thing. And I go, and what I do here, I don't know if anybody does this, but I do it because I got a classical education in art, and so I know that in the Renaissance, if you were an artist and you were starting a painting, you would not just slap color on the canvas. You would create a monochromatic, basically a drawing on the canvas, and then you would, when you got all of the drawing problems figured out, then you would add the color in glazes, thin glazes. And they used to teach that. They don't teach us that much anymore, except in academies. They teach it in academies. They don't teach it in regular art schools, which is a real shame. And maybe they do now because that old academy approach is coming back. It's coming back, but when I was in school, you never got taught any of that stuff. I had to learn all these things on my own. That's fine. And okay, Give this guy a little bit of light on his face. He's kind of messed up his life real big time. Okay, like that. And then maybe a little bit like that. It doesn't have to be truly realistic the way it actually would be, but we do our best. Okay, a little bit of light there. And then I'll probably draw in the background. So we're saying that light's going to hit this guy like this. That'll be light here, and then we'll just have his top of his head. It's going to be in the shadows. Then in the bottom part will be in the shadows. Yeah, yeah. The weird part about about the world of art now is that everything that has ever existed in art is now being done. What's that? Everything's being done, all the way from Odd Nerdum doing Caravaggio and Rembrandt pastiches, though he's a very strange guy, to impressionism being done, watercolor that's just like, Winslow Homer being done, neo-expressionism's being done, conceptual art's being done, Dada's being done, da 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 da. Everything's being done. There's no one prevailing thing going on here. That's what postmodernism's all about. It's like a rehash of everything that's ever been done in the world of art. And so you're not necessarily going to catch a teacher who's into classical painting. Yeah, they may tell you that just pour it out of a bucket onto the canvas and be glad you got the bucket. And what are you gonna do? So a lot of us are just basically teaching ourselves. It's probably best that way. You're right. It's not the worst thing ever happened to anybody. And the cool thing about the modern world is that there's so much information out there. You can find a treatise on painting that'll tell you exactly how you need to paint. If you want to paint a certain way, it won't be very difficult. And now they got this academy thing that's going on that is bringing back the old Atelier Academy model. I ran into those guys. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It must have taken a heck of a long time to do. It's a beautiful movie. Yep, it's really, really beautiful movie. I was a big into Van Gogh when I was a kid. When I was your age, well, when I was younger than you, because you're what, 11 years, you're close to 30 now. When I was in my early 20s, man, I was like crazy about Van Gogh, which is probably the worst thing ever happened. Worst idea I ever had, because the kind of ridiculous life that he led didn't seem that in the 70s, that was actually more like everybody was living. It was like, you know, there are a lot of dead people out that I knew. A lot of people did not make it. I was one of the lucky ones. I woke up and said, this is a bit stupid, the way that people are living. And so I stopped. I stopped doing all the silly stuff that people were doing. I think it had to do with the fact that I realized early on, we do not live in a perfectible world. So those who are trying to create a perfect world are going to fail, and they're going to cause an awful lot of misery. There are too many variables. Those variables are human beings. So what are you going to do when nobody's going to listen to you and nobody listens? Don't think that people are listening. So you have to use force to do it. And that causes all the problems. Here you are trying to create a perfect world, and you're um, doing the exact opposite. So I realized that was all an illusion. That's not going to happen. Just not going to happen. If you think it's going to happen, you're incredibly naive. Okay. So here we are. I'm gonna go into the color area, and right now I'm gonna lock that sucker. Go into the color area and see what I can do. Now I have a color for that. Yeah, that guy. Get rid of the shadows too. Yeah, that color right there. I don't have to recreate it. So that's the color of his. Yeah. Start out with that guy's and I've got it on normal. Why did that? Then I'll color in the. Ooh, I'm right at the point where my wife says, "You need to stop." She's got me doing something later today. You need to go stop and take a nap so that we can go do what we're going to do. So I may do that in the next 15 minutes or so. I like to stay out of trouble. If you're married, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. Yep, Pat. You bet. They're usually right. Okay, okay. Okay, and then we got him down here. I named this guy after a kid in middle school that used to beat me up. And later on in high school, we became good friends. Well, we did not like each other in middle school at all. We used to get in all types of rows and fights and stuff like that. And then in high school, we woke up and became buddies. Ain't that the weirdest thing? Okay, like this. Nope, nope. No, I got to do a lot of fights in high school. Awful lot of fights. I was about as popular as the COVID-19, but I never got a fight with him. Unfortunately for me, I I got beat up real bad in the 6th grade somewhere. And I said, that's never gonna happen to me again. And I learned how to fight. And it sort of like maybe it came natural because a cousin of my mother's was a heavyweight boxer. So I had a really good uh, left jab that could uh, knock your head back real good. And so, unfortunately, I got into one fight in, I think, in my sophomore year. Some kid in the bathroom. I was in the bathroom. He'd say, "Mr. Rose, can I go to the bathroom?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'll go to the bathroom." So you go to the bathroom, and this kid comes in. I guess he didn't like me. He said, "Taylor, I'm going to beat you up." I said, "No, come on, stop it." So he took a swing at me, and I hauled off and knocked him flat. He got up and says, "I'm going to kill you." And then I knocked him flat again. He says, "You better stop this, boy." And I knocked him flat again. He says, "Okay, I give up." Well, he had to go to the doctor the next day to take care of his injuries. I really messed up his face real bad. I had absolutely no desire to fight him. I never wanted to fight ever. But after that, everybody was picking on me. Yeah, he, this kid, I won't mention his name because he's still around, and he and I never became friends because he always remembered what I did to him. And so every punk in the whole school wanted to fight me from then on. I had a kid, probably a friend of this kid's. Uh, we were just in English class. He comes up to me and hits me right in the face. I got up and I beat him up, and ended up in the dean of boys' office. And they never, with all this stuff, I never got suspended. They never did anything to me, and I think they knew what was going on. Wish somebody told me because I just thought I must be the most unpopular kid that ever was. But what it was is that after this kid came back with stitches all over his face, everybody said, "I'm going to fight that guy." And of course, those are the dumbest kids in the school. Those are the kids who uh, God only knows what happened to them. I don't think they ever got out of high school. Oh, that's a weird little side story to. Oh well, I got to do this. This guy's name. Well, it's strange that I ended up liking the guy a lot. He's a good guy. I just, kids in middle school are mean, mean, mean. I'm sure you remember it. Okay, back to that. Well, I didn't abuse him. I just basically was defending myself. Uh, the minute he stopped, I stopped. I didn't press my advantage. I could have really done some damage to him if I'd wanted to. But I had all types of kids say, "Hit me, hit me. Come on, hit me. I wouldn't do it. I thought I was a coward because I didn't want to get in fights. But the storyline of the Mennonites is not made up. Those are actually my ancestors, and that kind of had an effect on me. And Mom never wanted me to get in fights. I think Dad said, if you get in a fight, better make sure you mess him up bad. I only had a few kids in my whole teaching career. Actually got into fights in my classroom. Actually, I had two kids go at it my last year teaching. They're just sitting there, and this guy holds off and knocks the heck out of this kid. And the guy had said something nasty about his mother or something like that, and there he was. And then you got to make out incident reports and I wanted to put that up there because the word abused has many connotations. Some kid attacking you in the bathroom in high school uh, is a lot different than that word usually is used. Fortunately, that was just a small episode in my life. I haven't been in a fight since I was in high school. Can't imagine such a thing. It horrified me to be in a fight. Well, I'm too old to be in a fight now. You know, I'm sure I'd get my tail kicked if I was ever in a fight now. I am not that's about where this guy's hair's at, and I want to kick that out of there. Yeah, he's got a mousy brown hair. Yeah, yeah. It's in self-defense. Some kid was trying to hurt me. I don't know why. It happened 52 years ago. Yeah, 52 years ago, 19. That would have been the fall of 1968. I was a sophomore in high school, and so was this kid. And he was not a big kid. I don't know where he got the idea that he could beat people up. He probably just having a lousy day. He's ticked off about something and said, I'm gonna uh, go after this guy who's a head taller than me." I was a head taller than the guy. What it was is that my arm reach was so much longer than his, he couldn't even get to me. After that first smack where he hit me, he never touched me again. So I never could figure out people who wanted to get in fights. Why you want to do that? I guess he was just having a bad day. I hope he's okay now. I don't hold any grudge. Heck, I'm doing fine. Okay. Got the hair done. Get this hair done. Yeah, I think my wife's right. In a little early today, take a little nap, then we'll go do our thing. Let me see. You want to see some outrageously good art? Go to that right there. Go to Binsky the Champ at artstation.com. Some nice stuff, and I'm proud of that kid. It's not so much a kid anymore, but what the heck, you know what I mean. Yeah, do that. I'm here most of the times about 10 o'clock in the morning. Most just on weekdays. I used to do it every day, but I need to take the weekend off. Other things to do. I need to also work on. I'm teaching a college class, so I gotta do other things. But Ruben Buccinelli, I am so happy you dropped by. I've got an old Gables um, yearbook in here. I'm going to look up your picture. It's from about that time. I only bought one yearbook the entire times I was teaching there. So I think you're going to do very well. The stuff that you're showing, which I'll hey, just for fun, I'm going to show everybody what you're doing. There's some really nice stuff up here. I love good portrait drawing. It's not nice. Hair is not easy to do. Hair is beautiful. Look, this guy's good. I needs to hire you, bud. Well, you're already hired, but traditional art also. We got here traditional art. Da, 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 da. See if yeah, digging it. I love that. I really love that. So Now I'm going to get out of here. Where's my, there we are. This is good old Blueboy Brown. Adventures of a Family. And I will be back tomorrow. And if all goes well, Lord willing, the creek don't rise, the old saying. Okay, you good? Good to see you, Ruben. I'm glad you're doing well. So I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.